There are increasing calls to impeach New York Governor Andrew Cuomo after he made it clear that he has no intention of stepping down following all sorts of allegations against him by former staffers. In fact, one former staffer recently came forward and alleged that he had touched her under her blouse and also engaged in other physical contact that he has denied engaging in. And we have shared with you in the past that he refuses to step down. So there's growing calls among lawmakers within the state of New York to attempt to impeach Cuomo. Now, one person who wants to stop getting questioned about what the governor should do is Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from New York, who's gotten kind of frustrated with reporters asking whether she thinks that he should step down. Now, remember, he's embroiled in two different major scandals. One of them has to do with sexual misconduct. The other has to do with the fact that he tried to hide mass deaths within the state of New York that were at least partially caused, but mostly caused by decisions he made regarding nursing homes. Now, while a growing number of the state's Democratic lawmakers call on the third-term governor to step down, Senator Gillibrand has so far publicly resisted joining the fray. Speaking to Yahoo Finance, Gillibrand said talk of Cuomo's resignation, quote, isn't the right conversation we should be having, and actually puts female lawmakers in an unfair position. Let me give you a little more of what she had to say. Quote, asking every female elected in our state when a person should resign or not resign really isn't the conversation we should be having. And I have to say, it's exceedingly frustrating because so many men who are also in public leadership aren't asked these questions day to day. The women in our state are not meant to be judges, jurors, or executioners, which is kind of strange that she has that take, because during the Me Too era, she had some pretty strong statements in regard to Senator Al Franken's conduct, and certainly demanded that he step down, and he did in fact step down. That was over this photo that was released, showing him joking around, honestly in an inappropriate way, while a female soldier was asleep. We covered that story. Again, he did step down after there were calls for him to step down. And Kirsten Gillibrand really did lead that effort. Let me give you a little reminder of what that looked like.
Enough is enough. I mean, this is a conversation we've been having for a very long time, and it's a conversation that this country needs to have. And I think when we start having to talk about the differences between sexual assault and sexual harassment and unwanted groping, you are having the wrong conversation.
Seems like Gillibrand has a lot of thoughts on what the right and wrong conversations are, but I would argue that hiding behind her gender on this topic is unacceptable. She's being asked these questions not because she's a woman, but because she is a senator from the state of New York, and this has to do with a governor from the state of New York. And considering how vocal she had been previously about sexual misconduct, I think it's fair to ask her these types of questions. Cenk, what do you think?
So first of all, Gillibrand has painted herself as a champion of women's rights, and it's not just painting herself that way. She has often acted on that, and she championed a bill to report sexual assault in the military. That was important, and she made fighting against sexual misconduct a centerpiece of her presidential campaign. So, if we don't ask Gillibrand, I don't know who we would ask. So and I'm giving her credit for doing the right things in the past, but if this is your expertise and this is what you're known for, and it's from your own state, who else would we ask? Rando on the street? Of course you're gonna ask Gillibrand. Now, let's get to the real reason why she doesn't want to talk about it. So yes, normal standard things like Cuomo's very powerful in New York and she don't want, and what if he survives and then they're gonna have a bad relationship? They're both like-minded Democrats from the same state, they're allies, etc. That's the standard stuff. But there's one thing that the press doesn't write about that you should know about. The Democratic donors hated that Gillibrand went after Al Franken. They love Al Franken. He was a celebrity in the Democratic donor circles, quite literally, of course, right? But they loved that he used to be on Saturday Night Live. They loved hanging out with him. They thought he was so funny. And look, the attacks against Franken had a lot of issues. That picture you saw is terribly misleading. He was not actually touching her. And I don't think she was a soldier. She was actually part of the entertainment there. She works at conservative talk radio now. And so there was there was a lot of questionable things around there. But mainly the donors just love Franken. So when she went to run for president, she had incredible trouble raising money from donors. And she realized, oops, I made a mistake. And that affected her media coverage, that affected everything. So she thought, and a lot of people thought she had a real chance at making a run for it. Instead, it was a complete dud because of the way she went after Al Franken. So now being burned on that, she's like, I don't want any part of the Cuomo controversy. This will ruin my career again. And that's the reality of what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And that doesn't mean I agree with the decisions that she's made. But if you're gonna be a champion for any particular cause, you've gotta own it. And donors persuading you to butt out of it is not in any way, in my opinion, excusable. Like I don't care what the donors want. It doesn't come across as genuine or sincere when it seems like there's a double standard, right? And the general public isn't going to know that, and the general public is also not going to care. It just appears to be a double standard because it is a double standard, and there might be different motivations behind the decision she's made. But again, if you're sincere about something, if you want to be a champion for any cause, then own it. And don't let donors scare you from doing the right thing. And by the way, let me just be clear, the Cuomo situation goes way beyond, way beyond what Al Franken did. Because as I mentioned, now you have multiple former staffers, as many as 5, accusing him of awful treatment and inappropriate conduct. And then the other issue, which the media seems to forget about, is the fact that he hid the number of nursing home deaths. His administration lied in their reports. They changed their reports intentionally to suppress the numbers. And it was because Cuomo didn't want to look bad for the terrible decisions and mistakes that he made early on during the pandemic, including forcing nursing homes to readmit elderly, sick patients who hadn't even recovered from coronavirus yet. And that's particularly relevant, Cenk, because Gillibrand serves on an important committee. She sits on the Senate Special Committee on Aging. So how about you comment on that?
So she did, but she deflected again. She was like, well, New York and a lot of other states, I'm gonna be looking into a lot of other states. Oh, please, come on, man. This is exactly in your wheelhouse. So look, guys, last thing on this is don't hide behind your identity. I mean, if somebody came up and asked me, hey, one of your allies seems to be a hypocrite on money and politics and is secretly taking millions of dollars from corporate interests, and they're a politician and they're actually serving those corporate interests. And I said, money and politics? What name so? I don't know anything about that. That would be absurd. And then I said, oh, why are you only asking Muslims about this? It'd be ridiculous, totally, utterly ridiculous. Yes, this is your specialty. That's why they're asking you. Answer the question.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.